I'm Chinwe Onyeagoro. I'm the CEO of PocketSuite. Thanks so much for joining. I'm joined by Sean Littlejohn.
That's me. I'm the managing editor, and Chinwe and I have been working together. I'm the new guy, and we've been working together to create this tight-knit community of pros that talk to us in a conversational fashion. They're, casual conversations. We get a lot of information. We want to profile your business, and we want you to be represented. So we've started this lounge series where we have about 4 or 5 guests a day, and we just listen to you. We ask you a few questions. We get you to share, and don't in any way feel there's any pressure. This is just fun.
Okay, sounds
All
great.
right. Yeah.
We dubbed it the PocketSuite Lounge, and we have drinks here. I've got seltzer water here, and what are you drinking, Sean?
two for one, seltzer and a coffee, but my coffee's really cold now.
And I got sparkling water as well, so I'm good.
All right.
This is a virgin lounge. Bret, just picking up on Sean's comment, we thought there was no better time to really reconnect with the community, to hear what really successful pros who are making a great living are going through right now, how you're finding your way through this, and to use it to inspire folks who are having a harder time, and also to inspire folks who are just beginning on the path and are asking tough questions about, how to make it through. So I will give you the 30,000-foot view at PocketSuite. What we have seen across industries and across the country. In mid-March, when San Francisco decided to quarantine, we're based in San Francisco, our headquarters, and we basically saw a few things happen. We saw anyone who did traditional in-person training, whether it was fitness pro, beauty pro, pet pro, everybody's numbers started really declining.
Sure.
We saw those that traditionally are online or are easily translatable online, life coaches, therapists, tutors, were able to see actually an uptick. So we were definitely confused and befuddled around how do we support the community given sort of these different dynamics. Fast forward mid-April, we started hearing talks of reopening, and we started seeing everybody climb again. And so now we're at the place where most folks have recovered or beyond. And so feeling really good, but also having conversations with people about what's changed for you. We're learning a lot about things that people feel were really positive that came out of this, that they're planning on continuing.
Sure.
So just love to hear more about your experience.
Yeah, well, definitely being a mobile trainer, and most of my clients, it's a high touch, in-person, one-on-one model. It did take a big chunk out of what I was doing. I'd probably dropped, 80% of what I was doing. But I have been fortunate enough that I've had a handful of clients that have wanted to stay on, and we've practiced safe distancing with, proper PPE and, just for everybody's safety. I'm working out with my clients, with masks and gloves, and also keeping distance and making sure we're disinfecting equipment, and, just doing all those basic, simple things that we would probably be doing anyway, but it's just a little bit more of a focus on it now. And most of my clientele is elderly, in-home. They're in a part of San Diego that is it's easy to get to for me. It's not very far. So, with that, it was obviously it was a big shock when this whole thing happened. It was just like, we were cruising along, and then all of a sudden everything hits the brakes, and, really didn't know what was the next step. But I've had a couple clients that have been very loving and fortunate to have them in my camp. And they've said, listen, if anything happens and you need help, come to me financially. They're willing to do whatever it takes to help keep me afloat in the short term. And they've offered, whatever I need. So I've had that kind of card in my back pocket. I haven't had to use it yet, but it's there. And that's just a great opportunity that I have in case I need it. But that also comes with building that relationship with my clients and becoming basically part of their family in a way. They treat me that well as if I was a member of the family. And a lot of my clients have very specific health issues. So I've got to be very concerned and protective of that, in that they, I want them to know that I'm going to do everything I can to keep them as safe as they can be. A few of them are immunocompromised. They have ongoing conditions and disabilities and on different medications and things like that. So there's just a lot to concern myself with, but it's just part of what comes with the territory right now. And but my clients, again, the ones that have stayed on, have been very, very supportive, and they continue to work with me. And it's been kind of my life vest that I've been able to stay afloat for the last 8 weeks or so.
I mean, what a testament to the relationships that you've built. I mean, that and it's a time like this where the strength of that relationship is shown, right? You would never have cause, right, to have that kind of conversation, and it comes.
Exactly. And they've reached out to me. I haven't gone to them. They've come to me with it. And, I keep a brave face, and I'm not letting them know that, anything's a big struggle for me, because they got enough going on in their lives too. But, they jumped on board, and, they're just lovely people. And that it does go to the testament of this kind of business. It becomes much more than just the blood, sweat, and tears that we put into the workouts. There's a deeper connection that comes along a lot of the times, and we do make a difference in people's lives beyond just our sessions and the time that we spend together.
Yeah, I think we touched on this because the last trainer we talked about the therapy aspect, and how not only she's a trainer, but she's like a life coach. And I think this has really shown us, I mean, this is the first time since I was 14 and I'm 44 that I had to take 2 months off the gym. And it's the first time I realized how important it was. So I may have had weights at home, but I missed the social aspect. I missed the change. I missed the novelty of going somewhere, just getting out of the house. And I think it's really going to shine a light on how important your profession is,
Yeah. I've always said, people talk to me about my business, and I said, we wear a bunch of different hats when we go into this. And they're not necessarily scripted. And they might not necessarily be obvious when we first take on a client, but over time you do become that therapist, that friend, that coach, that somebody they lean on, that's, outside of their kind of tight friends and family circle. We're an outside voice and an outside ear that they can share pretty much anything they want with. And, as a coach, and as somebody who has developed an ability to really listen when my clients are talking, you get a lot from them. They share so much with you, and you have to be respectful of that. And you also have to honor it, because they are really trusting you with their lives in that way. And it, it's a beautiful thing. I mean, it really, that's what makes, puts the personal in personal training. It's right up there.
And to segue from that, I mean, one of our questions is, to get into this, did you have a mentor? Did you have someone who provided that service for you that pushed your life in this direction?
It really wasn't somebody else that pushed me. I originally got into the world of health and fitness when I graduated from San Diego State. I was in the athletic training program. So that was basically the avenue that we had. We either had physical education or athletic training. Those are the two avenues that we had back then. And I took the more medical kind of science fitnessy route with athletic training, thinking that I think that would be really cool to work with teams and to help the teams, stay healthy and rehab from injury and get stronger and just be better athletes overall. That led to me actually becoming a teacher, and I taught health and PE for about 6 years at the elementary school level. And really, I started doing training as a side hustle during the summers because I had, 8 to 10 weeks off with really not a whole lot going on. And I just kind of jumped in. I went to a gym. I got there. It was a big box gym back in Northern Virginia. They had an in-house certification program that got me kind of in the door with them. And then that led to me moving back here in 2006. I decided I was going to make fitness my go-to. I just decided I'd kind of done the teaching thing. I wasn't really that enthused by it anymore. And fitness had really just kind of bubbled to the surface as something I really wanted to try and conquer. And so I jumped in. I just got my national certification. I worked at the Golden Door Spa for about 2.5 years and cut my teeth there, and then started working at some gyms out in Coronado. And it was just kind of with a stepping stone that just kind of kept, an opportunity came and I would say, okay, I'm going to jump and take that opportunity. And then another one came up and I said, I'm going to jump and take that opportunity. All the while looking at progressing my career and trying to just be better at what I do.
In some ways, there's both intention around your path, but also just opportunistically, as things came up, you sort of found your way.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was just kind of trusting the leap I was going to take, and just believing in it and believing in myself and saying, it's not the most traditional path, but I'm fine with that. It works for me, and it definitely works for my clients. So.
And what made you decide to focus on those that have more complicated health challenges? When did that happen?
That was just, again, more opportunistic. When I first went out to Coronado, I was taking over a fitness director position for a small mom and pop gym out there. I was in a mastermind group, and the head of my mastermind group, the guy that was my lead coach, asked me if I'd be interested in taking over his clients, because he was looking to retire and move on to more of just being a coach in the mastermind. And it was more of the clients that I inherited that kind of led me down that path, because a lot of his clients, they're elderly and they've got issues. I've had people that, I have one client, my oldest client's 90. He's going to be 91 next month, I think, and he's got 2 artificial hips and an artificial knee. So he's three of the big 4 he's already working with, but he's still, he's just feisty enough and cantankerous enough that he just wants to stick with it. And I picked him up, and I've had him ever since. And that was probably 7-8 years ago now. So, and it was really just kind of, my background kind of lent itself, because I had that kind of rehabilitation and exercise medicine, exercise science and sports medicine background, that it just kind of, it lent itself to me being able to work with these people effectively. And so again, it's a small community out in Coronado. So, it's kind of like lighting a Tinder match. People start hearing about you and they start talking about you. And next thing you know, they're referring you to a friend or a family member or a relative or a neighbor. And, it's just kind of blossomed from that. And I've been very fortunate in that I've, had a good base of my business has basically been word of mouth. And I haven't had to, do a lot of hard hitting marketing and advertising and things like that to make it go. So that was just, it was, like I said, it was opportunistic, and it was kind of a blending of energies that my energy matched the energy of what the people were looking for. I had the background and the skill set that I could actually help them. And that's where the magic happened.
I think we're seeing a world where people, they don't want to put all their eggs in one basket. Everyone's going to have a side business or a side hustle. You got to diversify. Would you recommend training as a good side hustle? Is that a good one to get into?
I think it can be. The most important part, I think, would be the people that you're serving in that side hustle. And if you keep it narrowed enough and niched down enough that it's not something that starts requiring so much more of your time and effort to make it work. I'm not really sure about it as a side hustle. I used it as a side hustle when I was just starting in my teaching career, just because it was an opportunity and I had the time. But I'm not sure of this day and age if, just kind of working it part-time is, I mean, I know it's possible. I just don't know if you're going to always get the best representation of somebody in the fitness and health world that is dedicated to it fully.
I mean,
just an opinion, but I just wouldn't, I don't have enough experience with, somebody doing this kind of just as a side gig.
but that, I mean, it resonates with me. I mean, if clients are working towards a goal,
Mm-hmm.
you, with a side hustle, help them get to that goal? Is it, I don't know what kind of consistency is required to be able to do that. But.
Yeah, and I really would, it would probably ultimately come down to the client's needs and wants, and then what the trainer can offer. And as long as those both are fulfilled in each direction, then you've got a recipe for success. I don't think there's any problem with that. But I just think as long as the commitment to the side hustle is there, because the industry is constantly changing, it's growing, it's a very young industry as far as, if we look at a block of time, what we're doing, it's still, a lot of it's the wild, wild west. People are out there, we're kind of cutting our teeth, doing things, seeing how things work, trying it out, expanding our options, expanding our offerings. And it's one of those things that it seems so dynamic right now. Like for me, I know I couldn't be doing this part-time the way I'm doing it just because of how I'm involved with it. But that doesn't mean somebody else wouldn't have the ability to be able to, separate, what they're doing full-time and then having this go on as a secondary thing for them. As long as all the commitments are being made and the people are happy with the product and the service and they're getting out of it what they want, then, I think it's a great match.
Right.
When you think about the road ahead, Bret, what do you see?
Wow. There's a couple things that I've noticed, and I think the flood of, and my inbox will attest to this, about how many people are pushing and promoting online training. To me, that's a model that I've struggled with personally, simply because I haven't worked with it. I haven't delved into being able to say, okay, I'm going to email you or text you a link or get you on a platform where you follow a workout. My business model and where I've been doing it, again, it's very personal and in person. And the clients that I currently work with, I know the majority of them, probably 95%, would not be comfortable with me switching them over to some sort of online model. It's just the tech, the language, the whole thing of having them have to go to another platform or another, email with a downloadable workout in it, or however it works. I know that client base for me would not be open to it. And I tried. I was offering it early on when this whole pandemic started and the lockdown started. So I put it out there. I just said, listen, if you're comfortable and you want to work with me in some sort of virtual programming, and I told them, I said, I'm kind of finding my way through this as well, because I don't really know which program works the best, which one makes the most sense. But they were not, they were just not open to it. But it doesn't mean it's not open. It's not another niche area that is open to me on the side. It would be a new market for me. The biggest challenge for me is getting to a place where I am comfortable enough with the product and the service that I can then talk about it confidently and also sell it confidently. So I believe in it as much as I want them to believe in it. But I do think this whole model is taking us in that direction. Right now, there seems to be an overabundance of it, because I think people are just trying to seek out something that will help them stem the tide of this and be able to continue to make a living while they are basically unable to see people in person. But I also feel there's, we go in waves, and I think there's going to be a big swing to that direction. But then I also, a little bit longer out, I think there's going to be more of a moderating of that and a swing back toward more of the middle, where we maybe see a hybrid model coming out, where it's might be one, an individual session followed by 2 online sessions, or, one-to-one, you do one in person, they do 1 session on their own, some model like that. I think that's where it's probably going to be a blend, where that may be more of kind of the middle ground. I know there's a bunch of people out there, and that there's a bunch of trainers out there that say they do nothing but online. And I think that's great if you tap into that market and you have the people that are receptive to that. I think it's an awesome opportunity. It's still a leap for me to get there, but it's something that I'm working on and exploring, especially now that I have all this extra time to work on it. It is something that I've been kind of putting my energies in toward to see if I can make a reasonable version of that work for both me and new clients. But that, to go back to what you originally asked, I think we're probably gonna see a bit of a drop off with some training models, especially the higher end products, just because I don't think there's going to be some trepidation with offering that. But eventually, I think once this whole situation starts to settle down and we start to moderate, the economy starts to pick up a little bit, I think we'll get back to pretty close to what we were doing before all this. But I think there's going to be some additional products and modeling of different types of training to go along with that, with online and also a hybrid model online training.
You've been in the game for a while now, so you've seen these changes and trends and waves, as you say. I just wanted to ask you a couple general questions. What was the biggest hurdle you encountered in your career, and what is your most proud moment, what you've accomplished in your career?
Well, I think the biggest hurdle for me was I took the leap of opening my own studio. It was probably about, what is this now? It was probably about 6 years ago. And I thought that was the ultimate goal, that once I get my own place, my own studio, I've made it. Unfortunately, that kind of kicked sand in my face real quick, and I got knocked down a pedestal or two with that. And it was a hurdle that I look back on, and it actually allowed me to grow and develop in a much different way than I thought. But having to close that business and kind of restart my business in a different direction, it was the hurdle was the unknown for me of, oh crap, what am I going to do next? I had my brick and mortar, I had to let it go. The next hurdle was, oh, what's next? And again, this was another kind of opportunistic model where I just started telling my clients, listen, I know you can't come to me anymore, but how about if I come to you? And they jumped on it, and they were just like, heck yeah, come on in. And I started building up my base of equipment. I got an SUV. The whole back of it's just filled with, equipment that I bring with me. So literally I am mobile and, at your door type service. And if they don't have it, I can bring it. So I think that in itself was probably a combination of the biggest hurdle getting over, and also the proudest moment that I've had in this business is that I was able to redirect and kind of pivot on a moment's notice into something that was completely unknown to me, but has ultimately become it showed me the most success that I've been able to manage in this business. And it continues to build, because I'm working with a new kind of business coach who has helped show me a new way of thinking about what I'm doing. And being able to look at models on how to scale it and eventually get to a place where maybe that studio space becomes another opportunity that I get to relive and do again, but just do it with a little bit better business sense and a little bit more experience.
You know, it's funny. We've spoken to therapists who have therapists. We're talking to you, a personal trainer who also has a trainer, a business trainer, and
Yeah.
we have dog trainers who have dog trainers. You know, what, as you think about the most important resources that you kind of grabbed onto that kind of got you to where you are today, are there resources that you would kind of shout out for those who are just starting that are accessible, things they should really look into that made a difference for you?
Well, I think a good basis for resource that I've always found in the fitness world is probably the biggest organization is IDEA. And for me, when I started out, that was a place for me where I could go and even on my own, I could research whatever it was that I was trying to accomplish, whether it was, you know, program design all the way up through, you know, best business practices. And that's one of the reasons I have, you know, I have this business coach on with me, is because I learned early on, well, not early enough, but early on, that I'm really good at being a trainer, and I'm really good at doing the X's and O's and the deep dive into how the body moves and getting all kind of sciencey and geeky with that. But my weakness is treating this as a business. And the first thing I told my business coach when we talked, I said, the most important thing I can get out of our relationship is transferring what I'm doing now from having it be much less of a hobby, but more of a business. And I said, I need help making that jump from hobby kind of behavior to, I need to make this a scalable and workable business that's going to be my legacy. And that's going to be my conquering, the mountain that I conquer is being able to make this an actual business. And I honestly, I got into this not thinking I would ever be a businessman with it, but knowing that if I'm going to continue to do this and make it a success, I have to get better at that. As much as I don't like it, I got to do it. And, you know, same thing if I'm making my clients do, you know, burpees or some exercise that really, really sucks. It's like, yeah, you got to do it. I'm sorry. This is where the rubber meets the road. We got to get good here, and we got to get you better.
I'm a 19-year-old. I can barely do a burpee at 41. So I'm.
Yeah. Well, I use that as an extreme example. I wouldn't, you know.
I'm kidding.
Programming a burpee into somebody's program, that they got to be definitely at a certain level for that to be a success.
So just one kind of parting question and thought. This has been really amazing, and I appreciate just the candor.
Sure.
We've talked to a number of folks who have said a number of clients have not made the transition and are not leveraging resources right now. They're home. Yep. In some cases, their diet has gotten out of whack. In some cases,
yep.
You know, other issues that had been worked on are now resetting in.
Yep.
What advice would you give to pros who have clients like that haven't been able to make the connection, haven't been able to provide the primary kind of source of support, which is that health and wellness support,
yep.
to category clients who just haven't come along the way?
Yeah.
Any kind of thoughts about what folks can do?
Well, I think probably the most important thing to consider is, no matter what, if the client is kind of falling off the wagon and they're not responsive, they're not kind of getting back to where you think they should be, let them know that that's perfectly okay. I mean, where we are, what we've dealt with, this is a stressful, unknown situation. Part of our psyche is to kind of go back into that comfort zone and do the things that make us feel better and make us feel good and give us security and kind of some safety. And, you know, a lot of people find that the pleasure in the food that they eat and the things that give them comfort, they may not be the healthiest things in the world, but also let your clients know that you're still there for them no matter what. And it doesn't matter what they've done. We just look at this as a blip on the radar screen over time, and we'll look back on it. Yeah, it was a 2-3 month period where things got a little crazy, but it doesn't mean you can't start again. And you can always just hit the reset button, go back to a workout that is non-invasive. They're very confident about being able to do it. It may seem very elementary and very low grade as far as intensity goes, but it doesn't matter. It's just taking that next step. It's like getting out of bed. The hardest part of getting out of bed is hitting that first foot to hit the floor. You've just got to get them to that point where they can stick that one foot out, get on the floor, get the second foot down, wipe the sleepies out of their eyes, and start to breathe and feel alive. So it's really meeting their clients where they're at. And the best way to do that is just keep communicating with them. Keep those lines of communication open. PocketSuite makes it very convenient and easy because you can do a group message, you can do individual messages, you can keep them, keep that contact flowing any way they are comfortable with, whether it's phone call, text, email, whatever works for them. Find what they're most comfortable with and what they respond to with the most positive energy possible, and just take that lead. See where that client will lead you. Your client will tell you where they are, and they'll let you know where they are, whether it's verbal, whether it's body language, whether it's your intuition. They'll let you know, and you just got to meet them there and be able to hold their hand and take them to the next step, whatever it is. If it's you meet them and you go for a walk around the block, that's great. That's a great start. They're moving, they're breathing, they get the interaction, and that's just basically a completely shaved down workout. You just brought it down to these basic patterns of, we're just going to go be mobile and we're going to breathe some fresh air, hopefully, with a mask on if needed, and go from there. And it's really just I always just look at it as my clients are going to lead me to where they need to be led, because if you're open and honest enough with them and you're intuitive enough and you pay attention, they'll give you all the information you need.
Perfect.
Thank you so much, Bret. This was tremendous. And again, I think this is a tremendously candid conversation. That's, I think, going to give a lot of people a lot of hope about what's
good. Yeah, that's all we have to hold on to. We got to be hopeful, and this will get better. The times like these, it's hard to see the forest through the trees, but you know what? We'll get there. It just takes time. We get a little impatient in this world with how everything is so on demand, and we get everything what we want when we want it. And nature has a little different recourse for us to kind of deal with for a while. But hey, we get the time. If you have the time and energy, take the time to kind of reflect and recover a bit, and also see where the possibilities are.
All right. Words to live by. Thank you, Bret.
All right,
you did
gang.
great. Cheers.
All right. Well, thanks for the call. It was awesome.
We'll see you soon. Cheers.
All right. Sounds good.